Welcome back. I'm Tedward, and today, thanks to Polestar Boston, we're driving the brand new Polestar 2. This is the all-electric, all-wheel drive, dual motor, 408 horsepower, 476 pound-feet of torque EV option from Sweden. Polestar has completely separated from Volvo, so although it looks and feels a lot like a Volvo, it is technically not a Volvo. But this is a great option if you're not into the Tesla, if you're not into the Mustang Mach-E, and maybe if you can't quite stretch the budget for the Porsche or the Audi EVs, because those can get really expensive really quickly. This one, being a dual motor with the Plus, Pilot, and Performance packages, comes in at just under $65,000. Now, I'm pretty sure a federal tax credit is needed to get to that price level, but to be frank, that's pretty impressive that you're getting this much car for that little money. And we're going to talk about the driving experience, but first let's take a look around it. We've got this incredible metallic paint. I really dig this, and that might be because I'm biased. My Civic Si actually looks very similar to this, and style-wise, I gotta say, it's reminiscent to me of those Subaru Legacies that used to be like super jacked up. I'm not totally sure what the package is. The Subaru nerds can let me know, but I always thought those were fun. And down here, we've got 20-inch wheels, but because we have this performance package, we've got the 4-pot Brembos in the glorious gold paint. I always dig the Polestar livery and styling, and that's carried out inside as well, because when we open the doors, we're greeted with these great sort of yellowish gold seat belts. And that adds a lot to the cabin, because this one is fairly simple. There's no leather, and I think they call this like a vegan interior, because essentially there's no animal products involved. To some people that's very important, to some people you might make fun of that, but frankly I like that there's options that fit people's lifestyles, because if that's the way you want to live, you might as well be able to drive that way too. This roof is all glass, so there's no sunroof to speak of, so you're not going to be open to the elements, and there's actually not even a sunshade, but they're tinted just enough so that way it's not intrusive in the cabin. And style-wise, I'm kind of digging these sharp lines. There's some corners in this car that I'm just not really seeing in the design language of anybody else, so I'm having a good time just looking around it. In the back, it's very simple, although because we have options, we do have heated rear seats. That's lovely. Fairly upright seating position and tons of headroom. You could certainly fit a fairly tall adult back here, but that's all right. I think you'd be all right even if you're about 6 feet tall. Pretty simple armrest, nothing outrageous, but all the touch points, things that you're going to interact with, are fairly pleasant to deal with. And up front, it's a very ergonomic cabin, as you would imagine, Polestar being fairly minimal. And you've got your touch screen up front, which we're going to get to when we're driving, and I'll show you all the things you can do there. But it's certainly not going to overwhelm you with technology, and I think that might be the point. The car is a car. It's not a video game. Back here, we can do our little kick and open our trunk. Loads of space from this hatch. I love a hatchback. And we have a couple configurations here. We do have a cargo net over here, but you can also pop this up to prevent things from flying around. And you've got these little clips so you can hang your groceries and then snap them in place with this little guy. I appreciate that. And then underneath, more cavernous space. This is the beauty of not needing a fuel tank. You know, I'm sure we've got batteries underneath, but you can put kind of interesting storage options in these electric vehicles. Now, one thing that is fairly disappointing about it is that there's not a ton of space in the frunk. I think this is something that Tesla is just absolutely killing when it comes to what they have offered. But up front, a small amount of storage space. Look, I've seen worse, but you know, it would be nice, but you do have your little tire inflator kit if you were to be so unlucky. Let's hope that's not us today. And a jack. So despite not having a spare tire, there is still a jack, which I appreciate the sentiment, because sometimes you're able to get a wheel on the car, but you know, maybe someone brought it for you and they didn't have a jack. Well, you've got one. But I do wish this real estate was used a little better, but you know what? I don't know what's going on up front for cooling. To charge, we've got our little charge port here. You're going to be tethered to charge point for the most part, because obviously you're not going to be using Tesla chargers in your Polestar. Closing the door even feels special because you've got this little handle here, and then we can strap ourselves in with our gorgeous gold seatbelts. And before we really take off, there's not a ton of options to adjust on here, but you can adjust your steering feel to be light, standard, or firm. You can have your one pedal driving off, low, or standard. The standard will bring you to a complete stop if you have the creep off, and you can turn that on. Obviously, creep is I let off the brake and the car will start to creep forward, or if I turn it off, it will just wait for me to add throttle. I should probably use the wireless charging here, and this has all Google stuff when it comes to maps. It's an Android based system. That can be intimidating. I am not an Android user, I'm an iPhone user, but I gotta say, having Google Maps on this is really nice because I like a Google map. When we get in, the car's essentially waiting for me. I don't have to touch anything. All I have to do is put my foot on the brake and put it in drive. Now, you'll notice we've got about 220 miles of range with 90% battery. This is going to do about 250 miles on a charge, and you can decide whether that's going to give you anxiety or not. I think that's just about the point where I am okay. Anything less than that, I feel a little uneasy, but if you get the rear wheel drive version of this, you end up with a little more, about 270. The performance package also comes with these Öhlins adjustable suspension, which you can bring to Polestar and they will adjust for you for free at any time. So let's see what it does off the line to 60. We're gonna put it in sport mode. And we're just gonna leave everything else. Ready? We're just gonna mat it. That's quick enough. And that's the thing about EVs, is that everyone is power crazy. It's amazing because you've got this instant torque where it just jumps to life so quickly. And that is such a joy when you get into an electric vehicle. That's the charm, that's the character. And of course, I love an internal combustion engine. I can't believe I have to qualify that. But I feel like anytime I talk highly of some of the features you can get in an electric vehicle, you just feel excited. It's fun to be able to put your foot on the pedal and just have that power band available instantaneously. It's amazing how quick this thing just kind of gets out of the hole. But it's not violent, it's not scary. It's something that you can certainly give your kids the keys. Probably not worried about them dying in it. Loads of grip. Even with the steering on light, I feel like I have great tactility and I kind of know what's going on. When we get into a little bit of a faster corner where we can see we get these tires to squeal a little bit on us, we'll get a better vibe for it. But here's the thing, I didn't touch the brakes once. I'm on one pedal driving right now. I can come to a complete stop like this. That's incredible in the city. And it's quite convenient for consumables because not only can I recharge my batteries on this regen, I don't have to use any brake pads doing it. This is a fairly bumpy road, and I've noticed that this Öhlins suspension is somewhat stiff. Not in an unpleasant way, but in kind of a sporty way, maybe sportier than this car appears. It's kind of an interesting dynamic in this thing. But I gotta say, like, I'm pretty impressed by the way this thing responds. And it's hiding its weight really well. Like, in a corner, I don't feel like I'm just lugging this massive thing around the bend. I actually feel like we're working together. It's kind of an interesting thing, and I like the way it puts the power down. It feels so balanced. Really impressed just by the body control this has. It's like fascinating that it can do this. This is not the vibe I was anticipating when I got into this car. I genuinely was expecting it to be a little more boring, and it's a bit of a wolf in sheep's clothing. It has some tricks up its sleeves that I did not expect. this is hysterically fun. And the beauty is there's no stigma associated with it because no one's looking at you like, oh, that's that weenie in the Polestar. No, they say that about the Porsche, the Audi, the Tesla. They're not going to say that about this thing. And it's kind of fun to pin this into a corner. I'm having a good time. All right, let's mellow it down. Let's do a little normal driving, like sophisticated people, because that's who's going to buy this. If you walk into the Polestar showroom, the first thing you're going to notice is just how elegantly minimal it is, and that is the vibe they're selling. This is definitely this is like an architect's car, but you know, if you're just looking for something simple and robust, I feel like this is the vibe. You're not looking for that video game spaceship, you're just looking for something that fits into your lifestyle. And this has just enough room, it has all the things you need, and you know, it looks really sleek. I dig these seats. Now there is one thing, they do have these side bolsters. They could be a little better. I feel like mid-corner I'm falling out of the seat just a little bit. But then again, I don't know that the driver of a Polestar 2 is really pinning this thing in a corner like I'm gonna do. And this blinker noise, not my favorite. You hearing this? It's kind of like dropping a piece of metal on a glass table or something. There's something really sharp about it, which I suppose is good because you'll never leave your blinker on because you'll want to turn it off. But hopefully it doesn't mean that you won't want to use it in the first place. I feel like Volvo drivers can usually be trusted to use their blinkers, so I'm not so concerned. And I'm sorry, I know Volvo and Polestar are different companies, but look, we've been conditioned, okay? We've been conditioned, and it looks like a Volvo. I'm really into these mirrors. They basically have like no dead space. It's all glass. Like that entire thing is a mirror. It gives me a lot of real estate. I can see what I need to see. It seems pretty simple to do that, but you know, there's not a whole lot of people doing stuff like that. Hey, off the yellow line, dude. You're not going fast enough to warrant that kind of line. Anyway, same goes for the rear view mirror here, and I've got reasonable rearward visibility, even though that, you know, there's a heck of an angle on that rear glass. I can still see what's going out there, so that's nice. What's nice too is that I don't have a million options going on here. You know, I've got my driver assist modes and things like that, and that's great. Normal stuff, lane keeping, driver alert, collision avoidance, etc. That's all great. And you know, I can see my charge. I can set how much I want it to charge. If I'm trying to conserve this battery, I only want it to go to say 90 or 95%, etc. And at the end of the day, we've got our little car status. I can tell that I don't have any flat tires. Good so far. And you know, I can put in on the map what I need through Google Maps. It's a very familiar interface, which I like because guess what? I use Google Maps when I check anything on my laptop if I'm looking where I'm going to go. That's not how it works with your Tesla or, you know, pretty much anything else. So I'm definitely into that. Road noise, it's fairly quiet. I mean, obviously there's no internal combustion engine to interrupt my train of thought or freak me out with a stilted idle. Caution, amphibians crossing. Okay, we will keep our eye out for amphibians. You know, you're going to get some wind noise, you're going to get some tire noise, and I think it's really important when you have an EV that you get a quiet tire that's going to do the job, because that tire noise can be invasive. I have a brand new 2022 Honda Civic Si on all seasons. They are ferociously loud, and it's a fairly quiet powertrain, so that's all you hear. On your EV, same goes for that. You know, you're really going to be noticing that tire noise. I like the seating position too. I feel like I'm nice and low. I feel like there's a bit of joy in the drive as well. And, you know, I just wasn't expecting these kind of dynamics. Let's go get it out to the highway, do kind of a normal commute feel, because That's the other thing about EVs. They are very efficient at very low speeds, right? If you're a city driver, this is going to do you a world of good just for your energy consumption if you just kind of live in stop and go traffic. If you're someone who's traveling long distances and you like to go 80, 85, that's where these kind of start to fall off. They're still going to be plenty efficient, but you're not going to get the kind of range that you would if you were going slower. Once you start to push air, that's where EVs kind of, they don't do the thing. Aha, let's go catch a little weird EV. There's Larry David in his BMW i3. All right, 70 miles an hour. That kind of seems to be where it's happy. We go a little faster than that. It definitely feels like I'm adding a bit of throttle, or I'm needing more throttle than I should. And that's fine. I'm just saying that's probably that cutoff where like 70 to 75 is where it's in its most happy place. And it does have some trick features. Of course, it has adaptive cruise control, but it also has the pilot assist. So that means it's gonna maintain my lane, do the thing. Now, most cars do this, but not all cars do this well. For example, I've got a Honda that does this. It ping-pongs around a little bit. It doesn't do a great job. See, it's asking me to hold the steering wheel. I can do that. I will help you out. But this is doing a pretty good job. Something it won't do that your Tesla might do, it will not change lane upon request, okay? It's not going to change that lane just because you put the blinker on. So that means that when I put my directional on, it's going to cancel that pilot assist. That's going to go off. And then I change my lane myself. It comes back and we're good to go. It seems very smooth. Everything seems happy. It doesn't get confused. This is a good pilot assist. You're not getting some crazy autonomous driving from it, but you are getting a solid system that is going to take some of the stress out of driving, which is really the point. And it's gonna bark at me for not holding the wheel enough. I'll do my best. Okay, little Polestar, thank you for your concern. There's something really cool about silently accelerating to 80 miles an hour on an on-ramp, and no one's the wiser, you know? You don't have to make a big stink about it. We're just getting to speed, we're doing what we need to do. Destroying our range likely on the way, but that's okay. Today is about fun. Today is about experience. So as a buyer of an EV, you're going to want to go through all the stops. You're going to want to know about efficiency. You're going to want to know about charge time. You're going to want to know about range, how to find your chargers, how is it going to fit into your lifestyle. And these are things that I can't answer for you. But today, what I can answer for you is that the driving experience of this Polestar 2 is surprisingly good. I think that this doesn't feel like a video game. It definitely feels like a car. I'm genuinely impressed with the chassis and especially the Öhlins suspension. So maybe a good idea to get that performance package. And frankly, I love the minimal design, and I think this has no stigma attached to it, like maybe a Tesla or a Porsche might have. There's no showboating. You just kind of look like a cool, classy dude. And while it's quick enough in a straight line, you're not going to be that guy who has to go give thrill rides all the time at work. Oh, take us to lunch. We want to know how fast your Tesla is. Guys, it gets old. It gets old, especially if you're driving a Plaid. You're going to want to puke every time you do it, and your friends are going to want more. not fun. So this is definitely fast enough. It has the chops, and I think this would fit into your lifestyle just fine if this is the range and charging network that you are willing to be a part of. So thank you so much to Polestar Boston for calling me up and giving me the opportunity to drive this car. I'm genuinely surprised. I like it a lot. I would love to spend some time with this car. So if Polestar wants to give me like a long-term Polestar 2, I would be more than happy to oblige and put some serious miles on this thing. I dig. I like it. It's fun. So thank you so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. I'm gonna go drive in some traffic, which is like oddly not stressful at all because EV. And yeah, don't forget to respect the drive, and I'll see you in the next one. Kind of shocked by the grip this has. Like, this is genuinely impressing me in a way that I was not anticipating.